Hi, Jeanne. How are you?
I'm great, Kim. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be back here
I
again. Got lots
know.
of things to talk about
Oh,
today.
so much. I mean, Thanksgiving is coming up, and we definitely have to talk Thanksgiving. So,
Yeah, the next 2 months that is definitely a food month for sure. It's
yeah, so
my
lots of
favorite.
challenges. So, we're going to talk a little bit about those.
Yeah.
First, let's talk. We had some viewer comments. So, one woman had, and I forgot to write her name down, so my apologies, but she wrote in how she goes a lot to Chick-fil-A with her grandkids. Okay,
Mhm.
that's probably not a place that we would be going,
Right?
but she wrote in to say that she gets the Southwest chicken salad, and she gets it without the chicken, obviously, and the cheese, but
Mhm.
and then she doubles up with the corns and bean, and they don't look at her like she's got two heads. So
Right.
she's like, it's she loves it. It's very filling. It's delicious, and she says thanks for the videos. So,
Yeah.
so that was one.
On that note, I went to IHOP one time and I did exactly what she did. I ordered an omelet without the egg and without the cheese. And the
What?
she kind of looked at me strange, and she brought Nelson and I back the most beautiful vegetable plate. It had, spinach and onions and carrots. It was gorgeous, and with some whole grain toast on the side. You'd be surprised what a lot of these people can come up with if you're nice and you ask for something that's plant-based or vegan.
But I've seen like they've had those omelet, assembly lines where you go up and you say, I want this, 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 and this. And what I've done is said, could you just wipe first of all the pan out with oil, because
Hmm.
they put a ton of oil in it. So,
Yeah.
and then I asked for like mushrooms and just all the vegetables without the cheese, and they just lightly sautéed them. And I said, do you have any like other spices hidden back there? And they brought out a bunch of spices, and they went down, and it was amazing. And I just put that
Yeah.
on. We ate that. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm going to have to remember the Chipotle story, or not Chipotle. You said it was Chick-fil-A.
Chick Fil A,
That's a
Chick Fil
great
A.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What have you? I We haven't talked in so long. So what
No.
have you been doing with Plant Pure Nation?
Oh,
Share.
I've had my head buried in food, it seems like. But
Okay.
a lot of exciting things are going on at Plant Pure. We have a value club that you can join, and it's a great deal because you get 15% off of all of our food, which is a good deal, especially if you use a lot of it.
That would be
We also
me.
we also offer brand new recipes that I've been developing. So that's kind of where my head has been, is making these
Wow.
recipes. So we're already up to about 20 that we've got stashed. So that's fun. We have great interviews with my father-in-law, Dr. Campbell, exclusive
Oh,
interviews that no one's ever seen before. And they're in small
really?
moments, like 10 to 12 minutes. He talks about when he was in graduate school and the hurdles that he had to jump.
Oh,
Talks about when he traveled to the Philippines, growing up as a boy on a dairy farm, all sorts of things that I'm actually learning. So I'm enjoying watching them as well.
well,
Yeah.
he's such a fascinating person to talk to.
Yeah.
And anytime that I've met him and talked with him, it's amazing, truly. I
He always
love,
has
I love
stories to
listening to
tell.
him. Yeah, oh, for sure. And just,
Yeah.
I would imagine all the hurdles he went through at Cornell and, and then with the China study. I mean, all those pieces, that's fascinating. I have lots of questions for him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But he's still not beaten down. He's still going
oh
strong
my
and
God.
really trying to promote the message. But I really love these interviews by Colin. And then we also have a Facebook group page for just people in the Value Club. So that's fun. It kind of keeps it small and intimate so people can ask questions. And
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
And they get a lot of support that way.
exactly.
Especially because the big groups, the big Facebook groups, your questions can get lost very easily.
They're wonderful because they do provide support and information for people, but sometimes things get lost. Things go down in the feed
Yeah,
and you don't actually see it. So, well,
right.
what are you doing? I know you're doing a lot with Starch Queens
Oh,
and
we are. My partner, Nancy Norby Matthews, who is the plant based Chico, California, she and I, we're going to start launching. We've been doing these 10-day challenges and we've had a lot of response to them, but now we're going to take it to 30 days. And we're going to offer a lot more support,
mhm,
education, and I think the big piece there is, Nancy just is like, she's like a big warm fuzzy blanket being wrapped around you. I mean, she just gives you that warmth that you can do this, that you're going to be there. So she's going to give that support. I'm going into the kitchen on Veterans Day. I have it off. So I'm going to be making all kinds of videos that people can purchase. and then she and I are working on a book together.
That's
So
great.
so
Yeah.
we're launching January 1st. We're launching the Starch Queens, and it'll be on the website, starchqueens.net.
So I
So,
want to tell people this because I know this. Jean and I always talk before we start these, and you still because you doing some stuff. You have lost more weight. You look great, getting curvy, which is
yeah,
wonderful. But share with us where where you're at with that.
I'm still on the journey. I mean, my
If you
fat and
don't mind
I
my asking.
well, I mean, my fat and I, we've been together for a long time, and the fat doesn't want to give up the mothership. I'm just saying, it has been it's been tough. It's been a hard row to hoe because let me tell you, the fat just doesn't want to give it up, really.
Mm-hmm.
So we're learning along the way about caloric density, and I'm seeing these changes because I hit these plateaus for so long. And if I hear one more person, oh yeah, I went plant-based and I lost 400 pounds overnight, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him
It
because
doesn't
it's
happen overnight for a lot of people. Yeah, it's a
oh
journey. It's hard. You have these plateaus, and
yeah,
then you're
yeah.
up and down, and there's a lot to it.
Well, I'm starting to see. And Nancy made me go take another picture. She's like, "No, my God, your face is so much thinner." And I'm like, and I went and
Yeah,
took the pictures, and she put them side by side. I'm still not seeing the change. And she's like, "Oh, are you kidding me? I see the change." And everybody's like, going, "Ah, you see the change." And I don't know. I'm still not seeing it, but
yeah, yeah. Sometimes you have to try on the clothes that you wore 2 years
yeah.
ago
Well,
as
I
a
threw
reminder.
I because of Chef AJ, I amassed a huge pile of clothes on my bed, and I threw them out.
Like,
I'm not threw them out. I donated them to charity,
yeah.
but I don't. So all my clothes are like fit me now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
and my magical little white skirt that I bought, and I talked about that with Mylan. I went to the store and I bought it in progressive sizes because that's kind of become my signature piece. I mean,
Hmm.
that for
Hmm.
mentally myself, because that's been a huge leap. And I
Yeah.
still have, I mean, and Mylan and I talk about this, is fat brain. I mean, you're still
Yeah, you still
going
think of
through.
yourself one way. You've been so
Yeah,
used to thinking of yourself as one
yeah,
way for so many years that you have to,
right.
yeah, you have to
And it's,
retrain that brain.
and I love, I think it was Heather Goodwin in the interview I did with her. She says, it's the miracle of the underwear every day. Like, she gets out these underwear and she's like, I am not going to fit into this. And she puts them on and it fits. And it's like, wow, I mean, because oh gosh, she was over 500 pounds,
I know. She has a great story.
She
I love
does.
her with
Amazing
the
woman,
story.
amazing. So,
Hmm.
the miracle of the underwear. And I'm like right there with her. Mine is the miracle of the car. I get in my car and the seat just seems so much bigger around
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And I feel like I'm like this tiny little person behind the steering wheel now. And I'm like, well, this is cool. I'm liking
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a
That's
journey. And
wonderful. You look fantastic, and
well,
I know
thank
you've
you. Thank you.
really been working and helping other people along the way, which is
I
key.
know. Well, and Plant Pure Nation has been doing that too. I mean, I'm a huge supporter of it.
Yeah. Well, we hope so.
Yeah, no,
We
no,
hope
for
so.
sure. And you've
Yeah.
got an event coming up in November in New York City.
Yes, Plant Pure Communities. We have a conference there on November 30th. I won't be there, but Nelson will be there, and
Colin.
Colin will be there,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure who else will be there, but it'll be great. Yeah.
yeah. Party with a
I'll be,
Purpose, I think it's
I'll be
called.
back home making more recipes for everybody.
Back in the kitchen. You're back in the
Back in the
kitchen.
kitchen. But
Yep.
I love it. I sort of facetiously complain about it, but I do enjoy it. It's fun.
Well,
And
I
if I
know.
find myself, if I've been out of town for a couple weeks or a week, then I come back and I'm drawn right back into it. So
Well, we are always talking food,
yeah.
cooking.
Well,
I mean, all the
my
time.
exciting news that I think I talked to you about is my mom and dad are plant-based now, 100% plant-based. I went up and stayed with them for a week. I know, it was so exciting. So there were so many questions and concerns that they had that I stayed and did a lot of cooking. My mom said, you spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And I did because I wanted to teach her things, but she was really overwhelmed.
Hmm.
And it was interesting for me because I had to step back and remember where people start,
Right.
because sometimes you lose track of that, just talking about simple things like mustards and ketchup. And
Right.
he was concerned about the labels, and how do I look
Hmm.
at things and how do I make choices. They're so complicated. So I had to take a step back.
Right. Right. Because you're like a Jedi level, and she's back down at the
Yeah, but
novice.
she has my cookbook. So, and I told her, I said, a lot of these were your recipes that we, you know, veganized. I use that word interchangeably, but a lot of them were her recipes. So I was cleaning things out. Jeanne, I was throwing things out of her refrigerator that she doesn't even know I did, except for the mayonnaise. She said, "Where's my mayonnaise?" And I said, "Well, you don't really need that
Oops.
anymore." Yeah, I did actually, and I don't promote this, but for her, she's 84 years old. I did get some veganese for her because I don't think she's going to make homemade mayonnaise, but it's baby steps, is
Right.
that
It's a
journey.
transition.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk Thanksgiving
Turkey Day. Yeah.
because it's coming up. And I
Hmm.
know in the past it's been for me quite stressful, I think, because on my one side of my family, I'm the only person who's eating this way.
Yeah.
So for me, I would, traditionally I had spent time in the kitchen and I would literally spend almost 2 days cooking.
Hmm.
And I would bring all this food
Hmm.
and nobody would eat it. So I got
Did
tired of
people
doing that.
feel offended that you were bringing food, or were they happy that you were bringing? I mean, how did they feel about that?
I think they looked at it like, for example, I would bring my cranberry sauce, and there was a cranberry sauce that they had that they were traditional with, so they
Right.
liked theirs better, and that's fine. Or I would bring a cornbread or the stuffing. Oh my gosh, my family traditionally has a meat stuffing.
Yeah.
So, a meat stuffing compared to a bread stuffing, in my family, no one's going to go for the bread stuffing because
Yeah.
they have the meat stuffing, and we've had that as long as I can remember. So it's been part of our
That's
our
what this is
culture.
for. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So you
Flavor.
learn how to change and
Mm.
and morph. So
Hmm.
now what I do is when we go to family events like this. So what I'll do now is I'll bring a salad, and I use your Italian dressing. That still is my favorite dressing, bar none, in all the things. And I tweak it. Sometimes I have a different type of red wine vinegar or a different mustard, which gives, like as you said earlier, gives it a different flavor.
Different
So,
flavor.
yep. So I love playing with that, and I'm constantly playing with it, and it never is quite the same. Sometimes I put a little bit too much garlic, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. And like I'll have that at lunch at school, and the kids are like, "Wow, okay, yeah, a little garlic for lunch, huh?"
Mm.
Mm-hmm. So now I just bring a salad, and then what I'll do is I'll take the Plant Pure Nation, the frozen dishes, and my husband, as soon as we get there, I'll put them. We have the mini Hot Logics. I'll plug them in and heat up 2 dishes for him and I, and then we'll have salad and those, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
So and we'll bring an appetizer for us too, and then I'll bring a dessert that I know I can have, and then
Mhm.
and then I don't have to spend 2 days in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier for us, and we don't have to focus. I spend more time hanging out with family,
And
and
that's the thing. It's important to remember why you're there.
right,
Eat before you go, and then when you
hmm
go, enjoy the people, because that's really why you're there, and
right,
not lose track of that. And I think
exactly,
a lot of people do. They lose track of it and become so hyper focused on the food and frustrated with how everybody else is eating, and just kind of let it go, relax, and
right,
enjoy
exactly,
time together. And we tend to eat because we've been in situations where we've people eat more traditionally. And when the kids were little, I used to say, just eat around the turkey. When we went, there were plenty of other things that we could eat along with. I like you. I bring a couple of dishes, and usually there was salads and vegetables that worked for us.
right,
So it's definitely doable.
absolutely. So let's talk about appetizers. What would you suggest for an appetizer?
I just did a cooking class with a mushroom pate, which is in the
Ooh,
Plant Pure Nation cookbook, and that went over really well. A
okay,
pate, people think of they think of dips as, if you're plant based, all you eat is hummus. A pate is kind of like a firmer type of a hummus, but
right,
it doesn't necessarily. It's not chickpea based. So think outside the hummus box. I tell people a lot. So the mushroom pate is great. There's any other dip that you can find. I have spinach artichoke dip in the
mm,
Plant Pure Nation cookbook, which is really good. I have a spinach artichoke choke dip that's a little different on Plant Pure recipes, which I love that recipe. So just finding things to kind of munch on. There's a hard cheese in
mm,
Plant Pure Kitchen, which is interesting. I use agar with it, and it takes a little more work. You got to know how to work with agar and dissolve it and add it to your blender, and it's to me, I'd give it a medium rating in terms of level of difficulty.
Hmm.
But there's definitely a lot of appetizers in the cookbooks online. There's some great ones. What do you
Yeah.
use for
Well,
appetizers?
I use some of the ones that you just talked about, but I think for me, the biggest thing that I always make sure I bring is these brown rice snacks.
Hmm.
These are, I love crunch. And for me, one of the toughest things is having like potato chips or
Hmm.
things like that at these events because my inner raccoon comes out
That's right. Yeah.
and I can't stop myself. I can't.
Well,
So
it's the
it,
salt. The salt draws you
oh
in.
my God. And
Yeah.
and it will increase my blood pressure like that. So these are no salt, there's no oil in them. So I
And
can eat
Mary's
these.
crackers, Jean, Mary's crackers are along these lines. Are a little more expensive, but I would put them in this brown rice category.
They are, but for the Mary's crackers, they have too much salt for me.
Okay.
But for the
Okay.
average person, that's fine. You know, Mary's crackers is a good choice too, but for me, it's too much salt. So,
Hmm.
but these are amazing. They're salt free. I mean, there's no oil. And they're crunch. Oh my God, they got a nice crunch. So these are great to use with some of the dishes, appetizers that you suggested. So
Yeah.
we'll
And they come in
definitely
different
post those.
flavors. I think there's a seaweed flavor. It's kind of, well, they have salt in them, but there are
Exactly.
different flavors to those
But
rice.
some of them do contain oil, so make sure you read the
Yes,
ingredients.
you are right.
So, so we talked about appetizers. Okay, so that's the first part. And of course, you can make a salad. That's traditional, and I love your recipe, the Italian recipe. So I'll
Hmm.
post that below. I have a great recipe for glazed carrots, which is a nice side dish. So
Hmm.
you take a pound of carrots. You've got some water that you cook the carrots first. I like to steam them, so you get them cooked and steamed, and then 1 cup of water with the zest of 1 orange, the juice of 3 oranges, a couple tablespoons of maple syrup, and some grated ginger. And then you let that cook down on low heat to make almost like a glaze.
That sounds really good.
So that's a great recipe.
Yeah, I
And
want that recipe.
yeah, no, good. It's a good one.
Yeah.
So what else do you have? What are like,
We make a glazed carrot too, but it's a little different than your recipe, and I'm still tweaking it. But we use the tomato soup, the Muir Glen
oh,
brand. So it's a marinated. It's a little bit different than what you do. The main thing that our kids love are the mashed potatoes and the mushroom gravy. And sometimes with the mashed potatoes, I put some parsnips in it, or I'll
uh-huh.
add some carrots to it just to kind of jazz up the potatoes a little bit. And then stuffing. We love
Oh
stuffing.
my
And
God.
I use the Dave's Killer bread,
Oh
or
yeah.
sometimes if I have time, I'll make homemade bread. The no knead sandwich bread, I'll make that. And I have a recipe in Plant Pure Kitchen. I put mushrooms in it, and I put fennel seed and lots of fun things in this dressing, and they really enjoy that. And then beanie loaf. Beanie loaf is one of those things. If you're giving up the turkey completely, and I know some people still haven't given up their Thanksgiving turkey, if you have, you can do some of these meatloaves, lentil loaves, but the
Hmm.
beanie loaf is a great substitute for that. In fact, I made it for my father when I was up there, and my brother-in-law said, "Those look like ribs." They did. The way I had them sliced on the
Right?
table. I mean, it was really good, and they devoured them like that.
Oh,
These are
it's a good one.
people, yeah, yeah. So I would try that instead of turkey.
Well, cranberry sauce is another piece
Ooh,
that I
yes.
love. I mean, traditional. And I use a little bit different recipe. I use the 3 cups fresh cranberries, which is usually a bag of the smaller bag of fresh cranberries. And then 1 cup of orange juice, and then a half a cup of the sugar. I mean, I know it's a lot of sugar, but it's one time a
Yeah.
year kind of dish. So, and then I cook that down, and wow, oh my gosh, really, really good
Mhm.
recipe. I
Mhm.
also have a pumpkin cornbread. Now, I got to share a story about this cornbread.
Pumpkin cornbread.
Pumpkin cornbread.
Oh,
So, I get my cornmeal. When I go up to Cape Cod. I get this is from Dexter's Grist Mill in Sandwich, and I buy several bags of this. I mean, probably about four
finely
or five.
ground or is it rough
It's
ground?
rough ground, and it's literally ground. I mean, it's a water mill that you can see here, and this is the actual grist mill on the front. This is what it looks like. This is in Sandwich on Cape Cod. and they grind it right in front of you on a traditional wheel, and it's a water wheel, and it's amazing. So I get it fresh ground, and I'll take home. Usually on our way home, we'll stop there, and I'll get like 4 bags. And as soon as I get home, I'll put them into the fridge in my garage, and these keep pretty much all year long in the refrigerator. So it works out really well. So this is
So
a coarse ground.
when you make cornbread, because cornbread can be kind of dry, it
Right.
can be coarse. Do you mix it with like a whole wheat flour or a whole wheat pastry flour? Do you do half and half or
Sometimes I'll do, and it depends upon how much I have, but I like to use the cornmeal, and I use 2 cups of the ground cornmeal. And the coarser that you can find it, obviously, if you're not up on Cape Cod and at Dexter's Gristmill, I find that if you can get a coarser grind or cornmeal, it works better. And that's just to me, that's my own personal preference. But sometimes I might not have enough of that, so I'll mix 1 cup of wheat flour and one cup of cornmeal with that too. But what gives it the moist texture is the pumpkin.
Yeah.
So I use the pumpkin
Great
in that.
idea.
Yeah, so I use pumpkin and maple syrup and some non-dairy milk.
Cornbread's a tricky recipe though. I just did one and I had 3 different people test it. And this is a new one. And depending on what kind of cornmeal they use,
Yeah.
I was getting all different kinds of feedback. And I thought, that's really strange. So I kept making it again and I kept getting the same results. But it's important to know when you're making cornbread, they say coarsely ground or finely ground, pay attention to that because
It does.
Yeah. And I'm not the master baker by any means, but that's one thing I do know that the flours make a huge
It
difference.
does. I mean, and I love cornbread. I mean, I don't make it very often. It's a special dish. I found that the cornmeal that comes from the Dexter's Gristmill is pretty freaking awesome. So I love that, and I use that a lot. If I'm making, like a flour. I mean, because I'm still on this weight loss journey, that's going to be a higher caloric density dish. But for the holidays, you make special treats.
Right.
So I love that pumpkin bread. And another thing that I did one year is Mary McDougall came up with this recipe for a holiday stuffed pumpkin. So we bought the little tiny pumpkins, and we bought them individual for each person, and we cooked them ahead of time. So you cut it open, you take the seeds out, and then you toast the seeds. And so you can have those in a separate dish, and then you can put those on top. But you steam them ahead of time, the pumpkins, and then you put the stuffing inside of it.
Yeah.
And then heat that up and bring that out, and then every person had their own pumpkin, stuffed pumpkin. It was awesome.
You could probably do that with acorn squash too.
Yes, that's another one, another good one. But I just love the idea of the pumpkin because that's such a fall thing.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty. It's pretty. Yeah.
It presents very well. But you could do that with an acorn squash as well. But that was a great idea, and that went over really, really well. So after we've eaten, we of course have to have desserts.
We never can have dessert right after Thanksgiving because everybody
You're so
is
full.
too full. Too many different. Oh yeah, just so many different foods. So we save dessert for 2 or 3. We go for our walk and save dessert for 2 or 3 hours later, and we make a lot of different kinds of pies. But that's where I hit the wall because pie crust.
Ooh.
I don't care what anybody says. Your traditional pie crust, you must give it up. That I don't think there's a replacement for it. So I use a lot of. I make my own crust with oats and dates and a little bit of walnuts.
Now, do you do that raw or do you cook them?
You can do it either way. You can eat them raw and put a raw filling in there, and you never have to bake it. Or you can bake it. Either way, I've done it both ways. But
if you bake it, does it come out like crunchier?
I bake it a little bit first, and then I will fill it with the pumpkin, and then bake it again. Yeah, it comes out a little bit crunchier. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have to be careful around the edges. You don't want it to burn, so you just cover that up with a little bit of tin foil. But no, I haven't had any problem with it. So I think the traditional pie crust that people are used to making or buying, the Pillsbury, those are awful. They're just awful. There's nothing good in them. It's white flour, it's oil, it's I think they have salt,
lard.
And the other thing you do is make a pie without a crust. So just make that apple pie or apple crisp and just put some oats and stuff on top and completely get rid of the pie crust.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Feeling better anyways.
Well, I make the chocolate peanut butter pie. That's always one of my signature things that I take to holidays because everybody loves it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, everybody loves it.
What's in it, Jean?
Um, I start out with vegan chocolate, and then I add peanut butter to that as it's melting.
Well, you can't go wrong right there. You
I,
can't go wrong.
and then I take, and to cut back on the fat, I
Uh-huh.
used to use a whole box of the silken soy, but I've cut back to just half,
Hmm.
and then I'll put that into a food processor with the chocolate and peanut butter, and
Hmm.
that's it. And then I use a crust. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Everybody, and I actually will do that and make it individual. I'll put it into
Oh,
like
that's a good idea.
muffins and then
Hmm.
top it with a berry on top.
Hmm.
They go crazy and they're gone. I mean, I don't take any home, which is good because
Hmm.
that's not low calorie.
Right.
That's a treat. That is,
It's definitely a treat, and it's
yeah.
it's rich. But there, I have something similar in the Plant Pure Kitchen with the tofu and the peanut butter and the chocolate chips. But yeah, we don't prepare it a lot, but when we do, it
It's good.
doesn't stick around for long.
No,
It is
no.
delicious. Yeah.
I also have one that's called a nutty raspberry thumbprint cookie that
Ooh.
is spectacular. And it looks like your traditional thumbprint cookie,
Hmm.
that's filled with a little bit of jam. And again, they're not low calorie, but on the other hand, I can make them ahead like the day before, and
Hmm.
and they stay very nicely, and those go very quick.
Right.
So that's another really good
Yeah, they sound
recipe.
delicious. I
Yeah,
want that recipe too.
coming
So
your
you will
way.
be sharing that. That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
coming your way. Well, Kim, I think we've kind of debunked Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
taken the stress out of it. So,
I will be putting a lot of recipes up on Facebook and Plant Pure recipes as we get closer to the holidays because this is a time of year that people
yeah.
want recipes and they want healthy recipes.
Yep.
So, but
And
it
that's
was
what these
great
are.
talking to you. It's been so
Always good.
long.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll do another one soon. So,
Yes. Yes. Well, have a great day. Enjoy your weekend.
you too.